kind of moments of disruption in our community, we remain focused on what matters most. And so keeping our students safe and supported in their learning, ensuring that our young people have an opportunity to have their education as disrupted as possible is forefront to us, but want to make sure that education remains at the forefront and safety at the forefront of all of our decisions. Um, as we get ready to open this evening, we'll go through our norm. I'd like to begin by reading a roll call of tonight's board. I'll go through, we ask that our board colleagues please identify yourself first for the record. I'll go through the roll for each vote this evening. So Vice Chair Parker,
Vice Chair Parker, present.
welcome. Commissioner Ames Messenger. She'll join us shortly. Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Chicas Guzman, present.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Commissioner Coy, present.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Commissioner Esposito, present.
Welcome, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, present.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed. Will join us shortly. Commissioner Scott Woodruff.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff, present.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons, maybe online.
Commissioner Simmons here.
Welcome. Commissioner Slater Harrington. Great, and I'm also present. Is there a motion to reopen tonight's meeting?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
We'll do second, Kenyatta Bay. All in favor? Vice Chair Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger, Commissioner Chicas Guzman, Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed, Commissioner Scott Woodruff,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons. Change the record once Commissioner Simmons is able to join us. Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm in favor. This motion passes. I'd like to invite everybody to stand to welcome the JRTC from Forest Grove High School.
Forward, march. Mark time. March. Color guard. Bolt. Left. Face. Present. Arms. Sir, the Forest Park Senior High School Army JRTC MD-46 respectfully request permission to present the colors.
Permission granted.
Thank you, sir. Order. Arms. Pose reverse. March. Present. Arms. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the republic which stands, nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all.
order. Arms. Post. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Right. Left. 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 Right. Right. Left. 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 Right. Right. Color guard. Hold. Post. Release. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. About. Face. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Right. Left. 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 Right. Right. Left. 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 Right.
Giving a round of applause for the Forest Park. Thank you so much to the JRTC over at Forest Park High School. I'd now like to turn over, before I start board chair comments, to Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, who will lead us through our moment of silence this evening.
I would like to take the time to recognize the passing of City Schools employee. This individual was committed to supporting our students through her work. The greater City Schools community will fondly remember this employee. Tonight, we send our deepest condolences to the employee, family, and friends. It is with deep regret that we inform you of the passing of Deborah Tolson. Deborah Tolson started her career with City Schools on July 14th, 2003, where she served the staff and students for 22 years, 7 months. Ms. Tolson served most of her career as a teacher, elementary, and most recently as math interventionist at Arundel Elementary. Also teaching at Dream Academy, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, Friendship Academy, Thomas Jefferson, Sinclair Lane, and the Blair Edison schools. Ms. Tolson unfortunately departed on March 6, 2026, and will be missed by her family, friends, and city schools. Jathan Isaac Day attended Mergenthal Vocational Technical High School and passed away on March 6, 2026. Jathan was affectionately known as JT and will be remembered for the quiet strength he carried each day that showed in his soft, confident smile. He had a natural sense of humor and a warm, uplifting spirit that made people feel at ease. And he generally was well received by both his peers and his teachers. He had an openness that spoke to his desire for connection and belonging, which is something that all young people deserve. His presence mattered, and the loss of his life is both untimely and deeply tragic. We will hold on to the memory of who he was as a person and a Merville Mustang. The light he brought in his own way, and a lasting reminder to ensure every student feels valued, seen, and connected. T. Brown Cornish. Tanal Brown Cornish attended Augusta Fells Savage Institute of Visual Arts, grade 10, passed away on March 7th, 2026. Tanel was truly a ray of sunshine whose presence could brighten any room. She was always smiling, laughing, and bringing joy to those around her. Whether she was spending time with her classmates or engaging with her teachers, Tanel carried a warmth and kindness that made everyone feel seen and valued. She was deeply loved by both students and staff, not only for her cheerful personality, but for the positive energy she brought to our school community each and every day. Her laughter was contagious and her spirit was uplifting in a way that will not be forgotten. Tanel's infectious smile and joyful presence will be greatly missed. While her time with us was far too short, the impact she made on those around her will remain in our hearts. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. And I just want to remind the public that annually we do a peace and remembrance, ceremony for all of our young people that we've lost in our community here in Baltimore City. Coming up this spring, we'll have those dates and have an opportunity to remember all of our young folks that we've lost this past year. And I want to also take a moment just to acknowledge just the death that was mentioned by one of our teachers here in Baltimore City at Arundel. We know that that's been a particular hardship for the community and our young people who had this individual as their teacher. We do want to make sure that we acknowledge that as well this evening. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session minutes?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed. Is there a second?
Second, Chicas
Kenyatta Bay.
Guzman?
Go ahead with Commissioner Chicas Guzman. Thank you. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger, Commissioner Chicas Guzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy? Yes. Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons. We got you. Commissioner Slater Harrington. And I'm in favor. This motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries? Excuse me.
So moved.
Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito?
I will take Commissioner Esposito on the second. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger. I'm sorry, Commissioner Chicas Guzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy? Yes. Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed? Commissioner Scott Woodruff?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yes.
And I'm in favor. This motion passes. For board chair comments tonight, I'm going to start off turning it over to Commissioner Mohammed to lead us off in a recognition of Social Worker Month.
All right, good afternoon. I couldn't wait to give these words to my fellow social workers. March is National Social Work Month, and we want to take a moment to recognize and thank the dedicated school social workers who serve our students and families every day. Social workers play a vital role in connecting home, school, and community to support and well-being. And they are the driver of success of our students' wholeness. Their work spans in many areas, including crisis intervention and trauma response, individual and group counseling, family support, case management, mental health services, collaboration with educators and school teams on special education, IEPs, advocacy for students with disabilities, and coordination with community-based partners who help meet the needs of our families. At a time when students' mental health and social emotional needs continue to grow, school social workers are often on the front lines helping students navigate challenges, supporting families through difficult circumstances, and ensuring that barriers outside of the classroom do not stand in the success of our young people in the classroom. Their expertise helps create safe, supportive school environments where students can focus on growth, resilience, and achievement. Compared to other Maryland school districts, City Schools employs the largest number of school social workers, and we are proud to say that every school in our district has one. The commitment reflects our belief that supporting the whole child is essential to the student's success. To our school social workers, thank you for the compassion, expertise, and dedication you bring to our schools and your students every single day. Our schools are stronger because we are. Thank you, school social workers. Happy Social Workers Month.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mohammed. I appreciate that. Going forward on my one update that I'll share tonight, I believe we have a brief presentation on the CEO search. We've shared this slide at a recent board meeting. I'll give our staff just a moment to cue that up, but while they're doing that, just want to remind folks that the board shared at our last board meeting a set of 4 focus areas that will drive the work together, that the board will do together with our new superintendent that we'll announce later this spring. These 4 focus areas are ones that we want to make sure that our entire community has an opportunity to weigh in on. These address students with diverse learning needs, as well as school climate and student well-being, our work to support more high-performing schools here in the district, and our school portfolio strategy. These are listed on the board's website, the district's website and the board's webpage. Since we don't have it up this evening, we'll make sure that we share a little bit more broadly with the community, the QR code where you can find information on how to submit public comment, but you can find that off of the schools tab. So my comments are pretty brief this evening. I also want to take a moment just to acknowledge Chief Allison Perkins-Cohen, who's going to be stepping in tonight for Dr. Santelises. Welcome. We're glad to have you with us this evening. Now, actually, I just want to check in with our student commissioner to see if you had comments or remarks to share this evening.
No student commissioner remarks today.
All right, well, soon we'll have some, but not for this evening. It's great for us. We'll now move forward on the approval of the personnel, employment, and payroll and appeals and hearings. Is there a motion to approve the PEP and quasi judicial matters?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second, Ames Messenger.
Thank you. All in favor? Vice Chair Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Okay. Commissioner Mohammed,
Abstain.
thank you. Commissioner Scott Woodruff,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
thank you. And I'm in favor. This motion passes with 8 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 abstention this evening. I'll now turn it over to Chief Allison Perkins-Cohen for, I'm going to say, not CEO comments, but Chief of Staff comments this evening.
Thank you. So first, I'm going to start by calling Emily Nielsen up to read the PEP.
Thank you, Chief Perkins-Cohen. Good evening, Board Commissioners. If you are on tonight's PEP and you're present, please stand when I read your name so that we can acknowledge you. From the Office of the Chief of Schools, appointments. Recommended that Sherelle Barnes, currently interim principal at Waverly Elementary Middle School, be appointed principal at Waverly Elementary Middle School effective March 21st, 2026. Recommended that. Recommended that Brent Dawson, currently assistant principal at Edmondson Westside High School, be appointed principal resident at Mount Royal Elementary Middle effective June 27th, 2026. Recommended that Jeffrey Sanfilippo, currently assistant principal at Digital Harbor High School, be appointed principal resident at Forest Park High School effective June 27th, 2026. Recommended that Macon Tucker III, currently Director Equity Centered Principal Development, be appointed Principal Resident Glenmount Elementary Middle School effective June 2017. Recommended that Tyamisha Van Hendricks, currently Assistant Principal at Arundel Elementary School, be appointed Principal Resident at Matthew A. Henson Elementary School effective June 27th. Congratulations to everyone on tonight's PEP.
Great, thank you, Chief Nielsen. As this has gotten to the season now where we're starting to hire principals, and so as part of our tradition, when we announce new principals, we also read a little bit about those principals. So tonight, I have the pleasure of reading about Dr. Sherelle Barnes, who has served in city schools for 14 years. She previously served for 7 years as principal at Lyndhurst Elementary, becoming the inaugural principal at Wildwood Elementary Middle after Lyndhurst merged with the new school. Most recently, she served as principal at Edgewood Elementary for 6 years. Dr. Barnes is also a transformational principal in city schools. She holds a bachelor's degree from Florida A&M University, a master's from Nova Southeastern University, and a doctorate in education from Florida State University. Congratulations, Dr. Barnes. And tonight I also have the pleasure of beginning the evening by recognizing an invaluable partner and support of our schools and students. City Schools is very fortunate to benefit from Great Kids Farms and our unique 33-acre district-owned urban farm where thousands of our students learn each year about farming activities, food preparation, the environment, and healthy habits for overall well-being every year. For the past 15 years, our partners at the Friends of Great Kids Farms have supported and enriched this wonderful program. It's now my pleasure to recognize Elizabeth Marchetta, Executive Director of Food and Nutrition Services, and Ms. Mary Jane Namian from the Friends of Great Kids Farms to tell us more about their work on behalf of our young people.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to recognize the wonderful work and contributions of the Friends of Great Kids Farm. We have a short slide presentation that goes with this. And you will see on this many of the firsts that our students get to experience at Great Kids Farm. On the slide, you can see some students pulling sweet potatoes, making salads with ingredients that are grown and harvested at Great Kids Farm, getting kisses from goats, and learning how to actually run a farm stand from our farm manager. The Friends of Great Kids Farm has supported this work for more than 15 years and counting. While the school district has actually had the land that is Great Kids Farm since the 1950s, the work that has been done there has really expanded dramatically in the past decade, thanks in large support to the Friends of Great Kids Farm. On the next slide, you can see a graph that shows the number of students who are impacted by the activities that occur at the Great Kids Farm. So really since school year 19, we have dramatically expanded our reach and anticipate reaching about 15,000 students this year with the goal of hosting every single elementary school at the farm for at least one field trip. This progress cannot be understated, and it is due in large part to an expansion of the programs that do direct education for our students. So on the next slide, you can see what some of those activities look like. And I'll say the two most popular ones are the field trips where students get on a bus and come out to the farm to actually see the animals, meet the farmers, and see all the different spaces that exist in the farm, as well as our school-based in-school farm-to-classroom programming. So for schools that do not get out to the farm, our team will come out to your school and do an activity kit with you in your own classroom. I will not get into each of these, but these are fun. They're extremely exciting, and you can learn a lot more about this online in the annual report for the Friends of Great Kids Farm. And I'll just say some of the key ways in which the Friends support us are listed on the next two slides. So they really help us to remove obstacles to making our programming there run smoothly. So one of the biggest things is transportation. Every school needs to get a bus to get out to the farm, and they exclusively fundraise to provide these so that our schools do not pay anything when they come out to the farm. This is extremely important for us. They also provide funding for our activity kits, ingredients for culinary demonstrations, small appliances, so some kid-friendly cooking tools, and the classroom kits that we send to classrooms and home with students. Additionally, they've really helped us to expand our infrastructure. So this past fall, we dedicated our outdoor classroom, the Jill Wrigley Outdoor Classroom, and this allows us to never have to cancel any field trips due to rain. So students can be out there learning outside. And they've also really stepped up to help us fill in and supplement our staffing. You might know that due to some of the AmeriCorps cuts, we lost some Food Corps volunteers, and the Friends has really been right by our side this whole time to make sure that this does not negatively impact city school students' ability to access the resources at Great Kids Farm. And so just to close, before I turn it over to Ms. Namian, who has served on the board for 9 years during this entire dramatic expansion, I just really want to thank Mary Jane and all of the board members on the Friends of Great Kids Farm for their incredible support during this time, and especially to Nancy Wiley, who is our outgoing executive director. We sincerely thank you on behalf of the Food and Nutrition Department and City Schools.
Liz, thank you so much for those kind words. Right back at you with the thanks. And I'm wearing this green shirt today, somewhat because of St. Patrick's Day, but mostly to support the farm and everything that grows and how we help great kids grow by all the work that's done at the farm and that the farm staff does. I speak for the whole Friends Board and our funders when I say it's been a pleasure working with all of Baltimore City Schools, and specifically Liz and her team at Food and Nutrition Services, Cynthia Shea, the manager of the Farm to School programming, the Farm to School specialists, and the farm manager. The programs and educational activities they develop and execute are extraordinary. I have been here through this 9 years, seeing what's done there, and every time I look at it, year after year, it just gets better and more engaging, and really helping to connect the children to healthy food, healthy habits, in a very hands-on and engaging way that really makes a difference in their lives. It's been a pleasure to watch them grow, both from what happens at the farm itself, but also what happens in the classroom and how they take the programming to the classrooms. It really makes a difference. The Friends Board is very hands-on. We roll up our sleeves. We get things done. We represent diverse perspectives and backgrounds, but mostly we're committed to the mission, and that is helping give kids healthy education on food and where it comes from, and how to be healthy that way. Under the direction of our incredible executive director, Nancy Wiley, who's retiring in May, we have secured funding sources to support the programming that the staff develops. We're really here to help support what they want to deliver, and we have very stable funding sources now. Included in what we fund is the transportation. We've helped almost 6,000 kids experience the farm firsthand last year. And we fund summits, bringing multiple schools at the same time to the farm on specific topics. We do internships and materials for classroom use. We cannot thank Nancy Wiley enough for all she's done during her tenure and wish her all the best in her next phase. And I'll just end by saying the farm is where incredible magic happens, and we encourage all of you to come and see it at our annual Farm Fest on Saturday, September 19th. It's a great thing to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz and Mary Jane. And I just have to say that I've had the pleasure of being at the Great Kids Farm many times, and it's always just a delight to be there, seeing students engage with the animals, engage with the staff who are so good with them, getting to learn about composting, and you just see the joy on their faces. And it's very unusual to have a farm like for an urban district to have this opportunity. And so just so grateful to Mary Jane and to the whole Great Kids Farms, Friends of Great Kids Farms team to help us make sure that we can make this something that students can experience. And then like the ambassadors, I've also benefited from the goat ambassadors who often come out to places, to schools, and our cabinet retreat was there one time when the goat ambassadors came, and I don't know who was more excited by the goats, the pre-K kids or the cabinet members, but we all had a very good time with goats. So yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, wait. Commissioner Chicas Guzman wants to know the date again.
Yeah.
It is 19th.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not exactly sure of the hours, but it's in the morning, the afternoon.
Okay, thanks.
Farms open, activities.
And with that, that is the end of my remarks. I'll turn it back to you, Board Chair.
All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. It's a good way to continue and kick off our meeting this evening. I will now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you'd like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. Item 8.01, anaphylaxis identification and treatment in schools, which is up for second reader this evening. We will be pulling item 8.02, the FY26 quarter two budget amendments for presentation from staff. Those are our two items for this evening, and I will turn it over to our vice chair for public comment.
All right. Good evening again, everyone. We will now move to public comment. Public comment is shared by our district recognized groups and the general public. Representatives from the recognized groups will have the opportunity to share public comment first for 5 minutes each. Afterwards, the general public may share. First, we will have Isaiah Gregory, the president of the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City.
Good evening, everyone. As the vice chair stated, my name is Isaiah Gregory. I'm the president of ASCBC, known as Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City. Today, I would have been joined here with my legislative affairs director to give updates as well, but we are here and I'm able to do such. Just under 2 weeks ago, ASCBC organized Legislative Advocacy Day. We had over 20 plus students from across Baltimore City go to Annapolis to learn about the legislative process and meet with representatives. We heard from Senator Corey McCray speak. We heard Senator Corey McCray speak, watched the session of the Maryland General Assembly, and watched the Senate committee hearing. Our Legislative Affairs Director and his Vice Chair, Oscar Diaz, testified before the Senate Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. Oscar, who is our parliamentarian, testified in support of Senate Bill 311, which removed the sunset date for using concentration of poverty funding for instructional purposes, created new ways for qualified individuals to become teachers, and reduced the reporting requirements of local boards. Our Legislative Affairs Director, Benjamin, testified in opposition of Senate Bill 343, which would allow school districts to create payment plans for post-CCR programs for students over the 400% of federal poverty line, arguing that it would undermine educational equity and access to post-CCR programs. I just want to reflect over this year that ASCBC has gone through so much significant change in leadership, with the change in both our ASCBC regional team and the executive board. But despite the challenges that we have faced and that we know that many people go through, we've still managed to have a successful year so far in growing as student leaders. We've kept on track with our newsletter, still hosted Legislative Advocacy Day. We hosted our fall General Assembly, created an issue platform, and engaged in advocacy at the local and state level. It is with upsetting news that that we mentioned that due to the brutal weather conditions a few weeks ago, it caused a bit of damages to the PDC Center, which we would normally hold our General Assemblies. But more recently, the PDC remains unsuitable, so our central office team, as well as our regional advisor leadership, has begun assessing alternative locations and keeping virtual as a last resort. Moving forward, ASCBC has been looking into combining its websites with city schools to achieve higher traffic and better documentation of the work of the organization. Moreover, we want to honor the hard work that was put into preparation for the 2026 General Assembly that students across the district have done. So we've been working with SGA advisors to ensure that the work is broadcasted, and we've been assessing moving the workshops onto the new ASCBC webpage. Additional details will be shared in a timely manner. As of now, the Spring 2026 General Assembly is scheduled for April 16th. Additionally, we have continued the structural revamp of the organization, and we would like to introduce a new change we anticipate will be approved at the upcoming Spring General Assembly. That said, ASCBC is proposing to create a new standing committee that will serve as an advisory council to the student commissioner. This addition will introduce multiple new appointed roles to the organization in which students can apply on a rolling basis. The student commissioner has informed us that forming an advisory council has been a little bit difficult, and so we've been working with her to ensure that we can get that situated, because we believe that forming one through ASCBC, it can have a bit more support. Lastly, as we continue our activism and civil work, I'd just like to highlight that we participated in Better Transit Now rally in Annapolis on February 2nd, and we anticipated our presence, which we participated at Maryland's at Strong School Maryland Blueprint Day in Annapolis on March 2nd. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Isaiah. Secondly, we have Sherry Brown, member of Baltimore Teachers Union, commenting in person.
Good evening, members of the school board, stakeholders, those virtual and in the audience. My name is Sherry Brown. I'm on external assignment with the Baltimore Teachers Union as a PSRP member engagement and the PSRP chair. I stand here not just as a representative, but as a witness to the deteriorating morale within our school buildings. We often talk about Baltimore City Schools being the highest paid district in Maryland, but let's be clear, our professionals who are our teachers, our paraeducators, and staff support don't come here just for the paycheck alone. They come for the love of teaching and learning, the drive to nurture, and the commitment to empowering our students. They show up because of the dedication that transcends any contract. They give their hearts to a system that far too often doesn't reciprocate that care. Right now, our staff is stressed beyond their limits. They are navigating budget cuts, chronic funding shortages, and a staggering lack of personnel. Yet, they continue to show up. They cover classes for missing colleagues. During their only planning periods, they stay late voluntarily to prepare lesson plans. They call parents. They give students the one-on-one time that they deserve. So why isn't the district showing up for them? Why are we turning deaf ears when it comes to the very people appointed to support our students or reaching out for help? In too many of our buildings, we have created an environment where those in power make our staff feel powerless, fearful, and disrespected. We tell our students to play nice, yet we as adults model an air of meanness, allowing it to flourish. There is a rising trend of management by fear. We are seeing a surge in leadership handing out letters of reprimand and performance improvement plans like Oprah handing out cards. You get a PIP, you get an LOR. Now, their new arsenal is the misuse of surplusing, using administrative maneuvers to remove staff who voice concerns or challenges to the status quo. This isn't true accountability. It's a campaign of toxicity. When you mix unprofessional attitude with narcissistic, ego-driven leadership, it's like a match to toxic fumes. It can crumble the foundation of an entire building. When a student's behavior is unacceptable, our restorative practice asks, what's wrong? We seek to understand, but when it comes to staff, some leaders lead with sarcasm, overtones of abuse, and immediate reprimands. I have yet to hear a child say, I want to be a principal when I grow up. And perhaps it's because they see exactly how those leaders are treating the actual people they look up to. The district policy for bullying and harassment is excellent for students. It guarantees an investigation within 2 days and a resolution within another 2. But where's that same courtesy for staff? When a staff member is bullied by an administrator or supervisor, that process doesn't take days. It takes weeks or months of investigation and then multiple steps just to grieve. In that time, the bullying often escalates into retaliation. Tearing down staff to uplift one's perception of goals is not leadership. It is a sign of someone who needs urgent training in people skills. I am not saying all administrators are bad, but we cannot allow Sinatra-style leadership, those who want to do it their way. to force good employees into early retirement or an exodus from the district. I urge this board to establish a joint review board consisting of the Baltimore Teachers Union, Pizzazza, Cub, Local 44, and the district. This body would ensure equitable, accountable, and humane leadership practices. We need to make it make sense. We need to let our staff breathe. We need leadership accountability. Thank you for your time and opportunity to speak on behalf of those running your schools.
Next, we will have Malik Parker, member of Parent and Community Advisory Board, PCAB, in a pre-recorded video.
Good evening, Chair Sally, Vice Chair Parker, Board of Commissioners, and Dr. Santelises, and members of the community. My name is Malik Parker, a second-year board member of PCAB, appointed by the ACLU to serve. On behalf of our members, I thank you for the opportunity to provide updates. Last week, our chair, Jason Green, testified in Annapolis before the Senate Education, Energy, and Environment Committee to oppose Senate Bill 0554. During that hearing, the bill sponsor, Senator Hayes, stated that the City of Baltimore School Board Community Panel operates as a closed process. We want to be clear, this is not accurate. The community panel operates transparently. Agendas are published. Meetings are open to the public when candidates are interviewed, and the names of finalists are publicly released before they are advanced to the mayor's office. What is concerning is that the legislation itself moved forward without transparency. Members of the community panel were not consulted in drafting of the bill. The Baltimore City Senate delegation heard the bill at an unannounced hearing, and no public notice was posted on the Maryland General Assembly website. PCAB remains committed to protecting community mandated role in vetting candidates for Baltimore City School Board, and we will continue advocating for Baltimore City families, students, as this legislation moves forward. We ask for your ongoing partnership in protecting the role of Baltimore City families and the governance of our schools. And to the parents, students, educators, and community members watching tonight, your voice matters. Please contact your state senator and delegates to urge them to preserve the community's role in recommending candidates for the school board. Protecting this process means protecting your voice in education. Our next public meeting will take place Thursday, March 19th at 6:30 and will be live streamed on YouTube. At this meeting, we are looking forward to presentations on attendance and updates on the school leadership process. We invite families, educators, community members, and to join us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Malik. Now I'll turn it over to our board executive, Yusuf Ahmad, for more public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Tonight, we have two individuals signed up for public comment in person. You will have 3 minutes to conclude your public comment. I'll let you know as we're approaching 3 minutes so you can conclude your final thought. First, we have Nicholas Jeffers.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Jeffers. I'm a Baltimore City Public School student at Baltimore City College and a youth advocate with Baltimore Youth Arts Advocacy Council at Arts Every Day. I'm testifying in strong support of the IGERA curriculum policy revision's fine arts policy language. The fine arts policy creates space for all students from all socioeconomic classes to be provided with an adequate arts education with room for growth. Comar requires that all schools offer a quality arts education. Unfortunately, Baltimore, the city I was raised in and the city that I love, is not in compliance with this. I realized that I've taken my arts education for granted. I was fortunate enough to be granted an arts education throughout all my years of school, something that I attribute to my mother. But many schools have limited to no fine arts classes that they offer. This leads students to not only be left out, but fall behind in terms of development with their peers. Fine arts is not just an elective to be thrown away. The arts engage students' parts of the brain that no other subject comes in touch with, which produces more well-rounded students. Several studies by recognized, esteemed organizations and universities, such as the Brookings Institution, have cited a link between arts education and increased academic performance. More specifically, the Brookings Institute study found that students experience a reduction in disciplinary infractions, an improvement in standardized writing scores, and an increase in the compassion for others when provided with arts classes. For me personally, that last statistic is what sticks out the most. School, especially our K-12 education, is not simply there to get students to perform well on tests. In the words of late Dr. King, intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Beyond studies or quotes, I've seen firsthand what a proper arts education can do for students. I had a friend who was struggling freshman year who had limited art classes up to that point. Sophomore year, he was required to take a fine arts class, and he chose visual arts. As he became absorbed into the class, he discovered that he enjoyed art, and he still does to this day. He started improving greatly, not just in art, but his other classes, and I witnessed him firsthand opening up to people around him. He's not an isolated case. I've seen so many students just like him find themselves in theater, band, visual arts, dance, and everything else. Art is important, not just little doodles in your sketchbook, but real art classes that expose students to real things. It deserves real attention. With the fine arts policy, we can make Baltimore students better, and in turn, make our future better. As a representative of the Baltimore Youth Arts Advocacy Council, we support this policy, and we thank you sincerely for considering it.
Next, we have Alnita Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. Apologies. Oh, where'd you go? I apologize. Oh, my goodness. Okay, there it is. Good evening. My name is Alnita Anderson, and I'm here representing the Cherry Hill residents and the Cherry Hill People's Union as BCPS moves forward with decisions regarding the New Era Academy and Carter G. Woodson school sites. Cherry Hill residents are asking that the contract with any developer include clear community protections and benefits. First, BCPS and the developer must follow through on their original commitment to secure the vacant school sites. That means fully boarding up the buildings and installing proper lighting before and during development to prevent trespassing and keep residents safe. Second, no residents should be displaced without relocation assistance. Third, at least 80% of the housing development must be affordable and tied to the area median income, so Cherry Hill residents can actually live within the community. Fourth, residents who are temporarily relocated, we ask that they must be guaranteed the right to return to the new housing at an affordable cost. Fifth, 80% of jobs created through the development should go to the Cherry Hill residents, with priority given to the surrounding Baltimore City residents, and construction should prioritize union labor and labor within the local unions. 6, contracts should prioritize minority-owned businesses. Seventh, the development should include a grocery store or other reliable access to healthy food for the community. Finally, a portion of the developer's profits, we ask at least 30%, must be reinvested back into Cherry Hill through a community fund. That fund should be guided by residents and used to support things like youth programs, housing stability, and local businesses with clear accountability to ensure it actually benefits the community. Thank you for your time today. We have copies of what we've asked. Shall I leave them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody for public comment this evening. Based upon public comment, are there any additional items that folks would like to discuss? Hearing none, I'd like to invite the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, so Chief Chris Doherty and Mary Ann Cox for a presentation on the FY26 Q2 budget amendment, which is item 8.02 on our agenda this evening.
Thank you, Chair Sally, Vice Chair Parker, Commissioners. My name is Chris Doherty, Finance Office. I'm here with Mary Ann Cox to talk about the Q2 budget amendments. And I think the way we will do this is I'm going to try to give a relatively short overview. And if there are any questions or folks want to do a deeper dive, Mary Ann Cox, who actually leads the work, can certainly go slide by slide or line by line. The reason I want to give an overview is the format and the type of slides are actually not that intuitive, in my opinion, and I want to give a bit of an explanation as to why. This process, the quarterly budget amendment process, is driven by the Annotated Code of Maryland, and it's an important way that we keep track of our spending throughout the year, and the exact format is dictated by MSDE categories and the Annotated Code. So before jumping into the actual slides, the idea is that, well, the general idea is we set our budget at the beginning of the year. It's made up of categories, and underneath the categories of objects. As we go through our year, Q1 and then Q2, we are then armed with a whole lot of actuals of what's actually being spent. And there's an important rule, kind of one of the cardinal rules, is that for MSDE and COMAR, you cannot spend more in a category than you budgeted. And that's a pretty straightforward and understandable rule. What that means, though, not that you have to be omniscient going in, but that if you sense you're going to spend more in a particular category, you move money from one category to another category. And all of this is poured over by our auditors, and then after that, the state of Maryland. So to give, if you go to the first slide with the dancer on it. Oh, the dancer is on it, I guess. So at the highest level, those are what we want to talk about. Also, in the second quarter, and of course, the second quarter is the period from October 1st to December 31st. We had already approved by the board, we had a supplemental budget increase of $940,000. So those are the main things that happened. There's moving between categories based on actual spending, and the actual amount of the budget was increased by that supplemental appropriation approved on October 21st of $940,000. So those are the things that go into a Q2 update like this. If you go to slide 3, also to give a flavor rather than every single line item, other things that are driven by this update here's one example. The Mayor's Office for Economic Development, our partner with Blueprint activity having to do with career coaching. At the beginning of the year, we put $814,000 into a category for use with MOED, to be paid to MOED. We put it in 0203. It turns out the better treatment for that is in 0201 instruction. So we can't just move that and not tell anybody, even though it's a pretty straightforward accounting matter. So one of the elements in these charts is an amendment to move the 814,000 from instruction where it was to administration, where we were made aware is a better accounting home for it. You see there that there's the $940,000 instruction. If you go to slide 5, Arzu, here's one thing I want to explain. This chart, again, the category is driven entirely by our auditors and MSDE. If you can make that a little bit bigger, maybe you can, maybe you can't. But what you see there is a reminder that our FY26 adopted budget general fund was $1.5 billion and then change. At the end of Q1, you'll see that the Q1 proposed budget, which ended after 3 months of FY26, it's the exact same amount. But if you look closely between those categories, you'll see what we did in Q1's budget amendment was we moved between the categories as needed. Not very much, but we moved as needed because you can't just wait to the end of the year and do it. What you also notice in this slide is we added the $940,000, which so far is the only supplemental appropriation to the general fund that we've had, right? So that's kind of the summary. All the other slides represent different cuts of that top line, either by central office, or by schools, sometimes by category, and sometimes by object. The other main thing that happened in Q2 as part of the summary is we have enrollment adjustments in Q2. So these kinds of charts are not they're not good expository explanations of the enrollment adjustments, but you can see the effect of the enrollment adjustments in there. And what that means is at a school level, if there are, say, 100 more children than the spring projections, that school needs more staff and they get more staff and that changes their budget. If there are 100 fewer school children in the fall, Q2, as opposed to what was anticipated in the spring, that school too needs to change their budget. The net effect of all those budget changes are what's captured in the Q2 budget amendments. And so with that, I will turn it over to questions or for more depth to Mary Ann Cox.
Okay, I can address any specific questions if anyone has. But I just wanted to emphasize that this is really a matter of audit compliance. As Chris already had pointed out, that we do have the stipulation from the annotated code that we may not spend more in a given category that we have appropriated. So this is what helps us control that. And as I'm sure you're all aware, we have funds checking as we do our expenditures through the general ledger. So that also helps with this compliance, that if you don't have the money in the account strain, you don't spend it. And then you have to do a budget amendment to allow you. So that's part of what's controlling this as well. And another thing I wanted to bring in is that for category, not so much object because that's more intuitive, but by category, we follow the MSDE finance manual. They tell us specifically what category certain types of expenditures are reported. And so we're held to that. And we're audited based on that as well. So, this really is a compliance issue. And also our auditors, when they come, they go through these quarterly budget amendments and they line up the first adopted budget that the board approves. And so they start there and they go through each of the 4 quarterly budget amendments. They make sure that they report was what was actually in the GL, and that we have board approval for these by both category and object. So it's very much a compliance issue. Plus, as Chris said, it helps us keep in check where we're moving throughout the year, you know, for comparison to actual expenditures.
Thank you so much. I'll entertain any questions from board colleagues before we move this evening. Commissioner Mohammed?
Can talk to us a little bit about the contingency reserve?
Okay,
So I'll let you talk about it a little bit, give some insight, and based on that, I might have another.
okay, the contingency reserve, as part of the original adopted budget, there is a line item in there for the contingency reserve, and it's actually exactly that. It's for things that are unanticipated at the time we do the budget, because there's such a timeline in the budget process where we are making estimates at least 6 months prior to the time we start to spend. For example, the revenue numbers that we use in our adopted budget are based on the very first revenue estimate that we get from MSD, which is the January estimate. So even though there may be multiple ones put after that, that's the one we use because it's the best available that we have at the time. So we know that there are things that can affect our needs as we move through the budget. Certainly enrollment is a big one, you know, and the characteristics of the students, you know, we work with the best information we have at the time. So we might make a projection on how many special ed students we might have and what their IEP needs might be, and as like a total amount of cost. But when we are faced with providing the actual services, we have to deal with the students who come back in the fall, and that population could be different and their needs could be different. So we have the contingency that is a pot of money. And I believe that we had it on here that it started out at 6.5 million on our budgeted amount of 1.5 billion. So it's you know, it's certainly enough to make a difference, you know, and that we would reallocate that as we go through the year based on needs that come up during the year. An example might be, like Chris said, the enrollment overall might be higher than what we had originally anticipated. So we'd have to distribute more money, or the transportation, the vendors' rates might be higher than what we had anticipated. So we have that contingency amount that we can reallocate from during the year.
So just for my clarity, and I want to make sure that I understand this, and I think it's important for the public as well. Have we reduced the amount, our contingency amount?
We have.
No, we have not reduced our contingency amount. As a matter of fact, from memory, it's inched up a bit over the last few years. The 6.5 million that you see on slide 11 represents a high watermark in my 5.5 years here. And it's also, this contingency, of course, is different from things like the unassigned fund balance, which they're cousins maybe, or siblings even, in that they're contingency and reserves for unexpected occurrences. And this 6.5, and we can, before you ask for it, I can offer to send you what our contingency has been, like the previous year's version of the 6.5. If I had my druthers, the 6.5 would be larger. As Mary Ann mentions, it's less than 0.5% of the overall budget. In public accounting, it's actually a little trickier to assign the kinds of contingency reserves that you might see in a $1.5 billion private entity that might have considerably more. It's just a function of accounting and where things go. But no, we definitely have not decreased it. And all other things equal, would like to increase it.
So my question stems from just some of the uncertainty that we have in funding both federally and maybe some state shortfalls. And I really want to understand what would trigger an emergency for us as a district with regards to those reserve funds. So just having an understanding of what that is just helpful for me in looking through the budget.
Absolutely. Going back to the assigned fund balance as just the biggest single, the biggest single source of emergency funding is the unassigned fund balance. And as the board probably knows, but it's a very good fact to reiterate, anytime the organization wants to use unassigned fund balance for any purpose, they bring that to the board and they say, there's X amount in the unassigned fund balance. The proposal is to move 2X of it and use it for such and such an activity. So the good news from the point of view of transparency and clarity is that in order to use assigned fund balance at all, it's not included in some other report or included in some other set of activities, but it's a per se request to the board to use unassigned fund balance. And in those instances, it would say exactly for what. It wouldn't say, for example, just in case we have unexpected costs. That's why it was put in the unassigned fund balance in the first place. If we pull it out and want to use it for something, it would be because of the, force majeure events as described in paragraph 1, 2, 3.
To both of you this evening.
Thank you, Chair.
Question. I think it is worth, it is no small feat in terms of the budget of this district size and keeping it moving, making sure that we're all good stewards of our resources. So we do thank the CFO's team and all of our respective leaders for their work in ensuring. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second, Chief Guzman?
We will go with Commissioner Chicas Guzman. All in favor? Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger? Commissioner Chicas Guzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyle?
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Pinata Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Woodruff? Commissioner Simmons is also absent. Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yes.
And I'm in favor. This motion passes. Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome our Chief Academic Officer, Chief Joan Dabrowski, up for an information item, Policy IGE Curriculum First Reader.
Good evening, Chair Sally, Vice Chair Parker, Commissioners. I'm pleased to be here tonight alongside Dr. Kevin Cuppett, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. Tonight, we are here to do first reader for our curriculum policy, Policy IGE. Again, this is work that is shared across multiple spaces in our teaching and learning offices and in academics offices beyond. It is something that we have, I think, a lot of pride in the great work that we do. And I'm proud that we have some young people here today talking about our work in our fine arts space, which you're going to hear about tonight as part of our work in this policy and some of the revisions. So appreciate hearing their voice as we come to you this evening. We've got our presentation up, so I'll go ahead and get us started, and then I'm going to be handing it off to Dr. Cuppett. So again, this aligns with priority 1, a part of our strategic priorities, knowing that at the core of what we do is teaching and learning and instruction, which is anchored in curriculum. If we move to the next slide, you'll see here that our agenda for this presentation is to talk about key features of the current policy, and then followed by some proposed revisions, and then to share with you the stakeholder feedback we've received thus far. I want to just note that while you see 2 people here at the table this evening, this presentation represents the collective work of quite a few colleagues who've come together. Again, as you'll hear from Dr. Cuppett, there is a lot of meat in our curriculum policy. It is filled with important information that he'll go into. And some of the information that you'll hear and learn about tonight is work that has existed in other spaces. So you'll hear him make reference to our curriculum management plan, which is something annually we share with the board and with our public. And part of our work in this revision space has to bring some of those documents and informations all into our IGE policy and nest this together in a way that reflects coherence. Similar, you'll also hear about some of our strategic plans that also, again, find their way into this revision work. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Cuppett, who will walk you through the presentation, and we look forward to your feedback and questions.
Thank you, Dr. Brasky. Good evening. One of the first things I would like to point out is that policy IGE exists here, but there are two attached regulations, IGERA, which is really a deep dive in some of the curriculum guidance that we have, and IGERB, which is really around our library and media programming. So if you were to look at the policy attachment, you'll see that there are some key sections I just wanted to highlight. One, there's a clear purpose section as far as what the board's purpose is. There's several pages of key terms, some of which have been updated, and I'll share with you. Starting around page 4, there's some general expectations on curriculum, including things around like standards, implementation. If you go from 4 to 5, you'll note that there's some charter school related language there, as well as some specialized program exemptions related to curriculum, like AP, International Baccalaureate dual enrollment. If you further on, there's information around programs of study and curriculum guides, which I'm going to get into a little bit more depth in a minute. How we select resources for use in classrooms, as well as some key compliance components. Next slide, please. So why are we revising the policy? Well, a number of reasons. One, it hasn't been revised since 2019. A lot happens in the educational space, so we want to be aligned with best practices. There's always state law or changes in regulation that need to be reflected. We want to reflect our current practices. For example, we do have a curriculum. We have a new learning management system here in the district, and that's a new approach. It's a new level of transparency that we can have available. And so we want to reflect that. Plus, as Dr. Dabrowski mentioned, the revisions are a great way for us to signal our supportive content areas, things like fine arts or career and technical education, and highlight, as she mentioned, the strategic plans. And then one of the things that we discussed on the committee was how do we standardize communication around curriculum? How do we make that more transparent? How do we share this with our families so they have a better understanding of what happens in schools? So those are some of the reasons why we've made the adjustments. So let's talk about, in the next slide, some proposed revisions around terminology. So in the curriculum management plan, we've addressed things like content standards, curriculum resources, information literacy. That term actually was in part of the COMAR changes recently. We updated our definition of curriculum to incorporate that language from the CMP. We also incorporated the definitions of written, taught, and assessed curriculum. And the last bullet is a term, high quality instructional materials. That HQIM is the acronym that the state uses. That is a big area of work that the Maryland State Department of Education and many other states across the nation are doing, bringing in those high quality resources that you might know as Reveal Math or Wit and Wisdom. All right, in the next slide, you'll see there's some alignment with our existing practices. We changed the timeline for curriculum review. I believe prior it said it was fixed that curriculum areas would be reviewed at 5 years. I definitely recommend we have more flexible language in there. Some curriculum areas need to be reviewed more frequently, and some might actually be able to go more than 5 years. And so we made that a more flexible set of language. As we mentioned, we incorporated some of the curriculum management plan components into here. We added a section around the development and approval of courses, including new and elective courses. And we'll talk a little bit about some yearly reporting that we're going to do around the program of study and curriculum guides, which I'll define a little more deeply here in a second. So that section that we wanted to communicate around the commitment to key content areas. And so in IGERA, there's language that signals our commitment as city schools highlights the content areas that the standards that would need to be addressed in those instructional areas. And talks about the nature that sometimes curriculum standards are integrated across content areas. So specifically in the next slide, you'll see the content areas that are called out in IGERA. You'll see English language arts all the way down through computer science. We do want to note that health and physical education is addressed in a different board policy. And if you go back up, you'll see that there are 4 content areas that have an asterisk, and that indicates that there's direction that those 4 content areas must have a strategic plan. And so in the next slide, well, what does that mean to have a strategic plan? You guys are aware that we have some of those. So if we do, then we as an academics office must submit an annual report to you as the board about what's the progress towards that strategic plan. And in those strategic plans, it talks about the importance of prioritizing and leveraging budget and other resources to make that strategic plan be fulfilled or come to life. So how's this showing up? So if we just give one example, this is the example for the fine arts. The way this shows up in the regulations, the first is there's a commitment statement to this particular content area. And then there's a separate section that lays out what the COMAR requirements are for those different content, for this content area at the different levels of elementary, middle, and high school. And in the next slide, there's that commitment to the importance of integration. And I'm very excited about some of the work that we're doing here in city schools related to integration of the arts into other content areas. There's the statement explicitly that there must be a strategic plan. And then that budget statement that there should be delineated investments in arts programming. So this is what we've done throughout the regulation for our content areas, is really lift up what our expectation is there. In the next slide, you'll see that some alignment with COMAR changes. There has been some recent COMAR work around the library media space. And so 2 things that are reflected in here is, one, we have this reconsideration process when somebody has a concern about a book in the library. And in that reconsideration process, the law requires that somebody with a school library certification, that their personnel are a part of that reconsideration process. And so we've added that in this iteration. The next, clarifying compliance around some legal requirements. This was when I was talking about the idea of program of study and curriculum guides, because under COMAR, you all approve both of those. And so what I had a conversation with our committee about was like bringing that forward in a more formal way. Not only does law say that we have to have you approve it, it also should be made readily available upon request. And so the committee has been talking about this increased transparency. And so what we'd ultimately like to do is make sure that curriculum guides and programs of study are forward-facing on our website. It'll take a little while to build as we put that information out there. We certainly do provide it when requested, but it's a lot easier to say, hey, that's easily available on the website. So let's talk a little bit about what a curriculum guide is. I used to joke around that I started teaching in the 1900s. And when I did in 1992, I showed up and they gave me an actual binder called the curriculum guide. That's what it was. And I see some say, oh yeah. Well, obviously curriculum guides are a little bit different in these days. So what we did is we basically put a definition together that was general enough that any one of the content areas could create a curriculum guide based on their content area. And so things like what are the documents that teachers need to create an experience in a content area to have a learning journey for students. And so we've come up with a definition there, and then we will work with each of our content teams to operationalize that. What does that look like in the fine arts that might be different in, say, secondary science? So the other thing that you're approving then is the program of study, which is that catalog of courses that we offer at middle and high school. What our intention would be to bring the program of study to you, have you understand how it's organized, what role it serves in selecting classes for students and families, and then seek your approval. And then in subsequent years, rather than bring the whole thing, rather alert you to changes, a course that's going to be discontinued, a new course, a course that we'd like to pilot, a course that maybe has had some significant changes in the standards. That way you as a board are always in the loop about that, and you can make those small changes to the program of study as we move through year after year. So we talked a little bit in the next slide about this communication about our programming, and there are really 4 big areas. The curriculum guides and the program of study are the 2 that we think are the most obvious forward-facing components. And we think having these on the website, again, leads to that transparency. On the next slide, there's two other ways. For those of you that might have a middle schooler or a high schooler, you might have received a course syllabus at the start of that course. We want to move towards a more standardization of those, and so that there's adequate information in the course syllabus so that families have an understanding of what's going to be taught in that course. Not a lesson by lesson, but the large, broad topics, those types of things. And we also wanted to lift up again the release of the family learning guides this year for K through 5 math, or pre-K through 5 math and literacy as another way to be transparent to our families. In the next slide, just another couple of edits that we wanted to point out. We did put language in here confirming our approach at city schools to handling sensitive issues in the classroom and wanting to have that civil discourse in our classrooms. And then also providing language about how city schools will handle concerns that a parent, a family member, a caregiver might have around a topic, a lesson, instruction, those types of things. So those are all laid out a little more there. So next slide. Okay, since we had policy committee, just so you know, we're going to share some feedback. After policy committee, we went in an engagement process. We'll talk about that. But since that, we continue to iterate on the work that we're doing. And so we have changes to better detail the procedures about raising concerns. We had some initial language, and we've actually made that a little more detailed, a little more clear. Specifically clarify who can raise the concern, when the concern should be raised, and how a decision around those concerns might be appealed. Another thing we want to alert you to on the next slide is we're always monitoring potential state changes, but there is still an ongoing conversation around that school libraries reconsideration process. We've updated the regulation, our RRB regulation with the knowledge that we have now. However, if new direction comes out, we'll be adding that as an amendment or change in process. And as I say, stay tuned for new information. In the next slide, you'll see the stakeholder engagement that we did. We actually met, I met with 4 groups. I wanted to thank some of my friends who helped out when we were doing those presentations. So we basically went in and did the same presentation we did with the policy committee, and then we gathered feedback from them. They could give it verbally right there, or they could provide that later. And then there were some other groups that we sent information to. They may have provided information back, but we didn't necessarily, they didn't request a presentation. So in the next couple of slides, you're going to see selected responses. So this is on the left side there, that's the group that gave us the feedback, what that feedback was specifically summarized, and then how did we respond to that? So I'll take the second one here, Principals Advisory Group. There should be a standards city schools syllabus. That's what we heard from our school leaders. And the way we're doing that is the academics office will explore creating a template. The balance of a template, we don't want it to be over restrictive, but we also want it to be too general and not meet the purpose. In the next slide, there's another example. This came from the Equity Advisory Committee, that the program of study should be clearly defined and the document should be accessible and clear to families. We 100% agree. And so that program of study, as we said, will be offered publicly on the website beginning next year. And so as you move through the next couple of slides, you'll see there's other feedback. And for in the interest of time in the presentation, we also provided some of that feedback as an appendix at the end of the deck. And there was a significant amount that we have received. So our goal was to do that engagement and provide to you, the board, the information that we received from those groups. And at this point, I did want to highlight that we are here at the 317 first reader, and that second reader will be on 519. And so at this point, we'll turn it over for questions.
Thank you so much to our team here. We really appreciate the thorough presentation, the work that's done to adjust policy. We know that that's large. I just want to turn it over to our policy chair just to lead off the discussion around what we see here tonight.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you both for all your work on this. And I also wanted to thank all the advocacy groups that collaborated in partnership. So it's really nice to see it get to this point.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Esposito. Commissioner? Kenyatta Bay, yes.
Two quick questions.
Commissioner, I just want
Good to have a microphone. Isn't it? Okay, two quick questions. One, we see the formation or the demand for, or the look toward developing standardized syllabi in various areas. How do you, and how will we program the development of that? I mean, it's not just going to come out of the, out of your office. It's going to be put together. And it's got to be put together, whatever it is, with current information. So how do we codify how we develop those syllabi?
I think there's a couple approaches. I think our school leaders could probably identify really good examples of course syllabi. That's one way. Because they review those, we could see, what's the just right, the Goldilocks amount of information we want to put in there. But there are certainly key components to any course syllabi that we want to have in there. So for instance, if there are particular books or texts that are used, those should be listed, because I can see a parent saying, I'm wondering what they're going to be reading or engaging with. And so that might be in a high school course syllabus. The general units of study and what those topics are should be on there. The information around grading should certainly be in there, because that's reflected in other policies that we have. So we would want to kind of gather best practices and come up with a template from that point. And then we kind of have to stress test that with some stakeholders to put eyes on that. Like this, maybe the course syllabus in a high school science lab would have some additional information around safety or something like that. So we would want to work with our curriculum teams to get that information out, get some teachers to provide some feedback. And remember, whatever we go forward with initially, we can get feedback and change that in the following year. We're not stuck to one decision, but we kind of want to make sure that that's reflective of what's happening in classrooms and that parents have enough information about what instruction is.
The second part of that question happens to deal with alignment with COMAR. Because I mean, are we looking at COMAR as the Bible? Because very simply, I've heard instructors being told that, COMAR is a suggestion. And how firmly are we going to make sure that we become compliant with COMAR, especially in certain areas, but yeah.
Well, I certainly don't think COMAR is a suggestion. I'll go on the record. But depending on what that teacher's referring to as far as the COMAR requirements, the COMAR requirements in this conversation, the ones that we brought, that we need approval of program of study and curriculum guides. I don't know, for instance, in course syllabus, if there's any information in COMAR related to that. I'm not aware of any. But in general, COMAR requirements are something we like to uphold.
Yep, so those are the guardrails and safeguards in which underpin all of our work here in city schools, and pretty consistently from district to district. I think what you may be addressing is how then therefore, through the various iterations from the state to the district, to the schoolhouse, these are implemented, and that comes with fidelity of implementation throughout the value chain. This is work certainly this team is responsible and charged with leading, but recognize that there's variability in delivery of services across our district, and that we seek to aim to level out to ensure that all of our young people, have an excellent education here in city schools.
I just, and the only reason why I brought that up is there's a big difference between guardrails and guidelines. And, if you perceive one as the other, guardrails give you some flexibility. Guidelines say this is the path we take. So that's why I was asking, what is our attitude in that direction and how we plan to move forward on that?
Yeah, and let me start with that, and then I'll hand it off to the team here. So, that's part of the reason why we have board policies is to make sure that we're clear how state law is going to be implemented. From there, what we're talking about, there's a difference between, state law, regulation, board policy, and then the direction setting that we're giving through guidelines, through our curriculum pacing, through other mechanisms out there, help to further define how we actually approach that work. Is that right?
No, absolutely. And what I would add to it is our investments in high quality instructional materials also connect right to that so that all of the pieces around policy standards can be not something that a teacher has to guess around because the materials that we are bringing to them are aligned to that work. And so our work becomes strategically supporting their implementation of that rather than thinking they have to go and find the materials. I mean, that's where, again, one of the great investments we've made over the last 10 years in high quality materials allows these pieces of COMAR to come to life in ways that are very straightforward and clear.
And then as the CEO's office just talked about earlier with Mr. Cuppet, is, the loop there is the opportunity to continue to have that dialogue with the board as they collect certain data points, as they bring back those required points in time to make sure the board understands the strategies that are underway to achieve not only the district's goals, but the regulations and the laws set out by COMAR. Did I do that justice?
No, I think it's well said.
All right. Anything additional from board colleagues on this presentation? Yes, ma'am.
Work that you've been doing so far, what I'd like to see is the consistency that's being presented, the standardization, the increased access in terms of bringing parents and family along and the public along to understand what we're delivering and when we are delivering it. I think it gives greater opportunity around equity, meaning that if this is what this course is, it's harkening back to a recent conversation that we had around African American studies or African American literacy and the delivery of that across the district and making sure that there is appropriate rigor. And so I see elements of that here. And what I'm interested in and will be looking for is when this is put into practice, how will we make sure that we're looking for that all of our students are getting that same level of rigor. This is being delivered. So I see this as a great foundational set, policy updates. But the practice that comes behind it is what we'll be looking for. And then hopefully increasing our ability to increase the access that our students have to classes that might not even be taught in their building. But because we have a framework, we know what this looks like, we know what we're supposed to be teaching, then we can figure out ways to innovate and make sure that it's happening across the district. It also allows, like you called it, parents to join in on that learning journey and be more informed about what their students are supposed to take, what this class is, what it is supposed to be. And so those are things that I like, but also some of the things that I'll be looking for.
Okay. Any additional comments? And I just want to underscore the critical role that our ILEDs play in this this implementation of all of our curriculum. The learning journeys are underscored by rigorous professional development at all levels, especially for our principals who are charged with being the instructional leaders in the building and helping to guide our professionals and our educators who are new, who are veteran, who are transitioning roles, who are taking on new academic challenges in buildings across the city. So thank you guys all for the presentation tonight.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I did not thank my friends in the legal office, Caitlin Barnes, Chief Sivan, who also helped guide this policy work. So please, I forgot to say them at the beginning.
Thank you guys. We appreciate the team effort. This brings us to the end of our agenda this evening. Just a couple of notes for our community as we round out tonight. The board will be convening next Tuesday, the operations committee. That'll be virtual at 3:30 p.m. That will be March 24th. Sorry if I didn't mention that. The same day, at 4 p.m. A little bit of overlap. We'll be doing the policy committee virtual. The strategic planning committee is virtual. That's going to be held Thursday, March 26th. And our next public board meeting will be after spring break on Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. Before we adjourn, we just want to thank our entire public for joining us. I wish our staff, our young people, all of our stakeholders a really restful and restorative spring break. And we look forward to seeing you back then. Is there a motion to adjourn this evening? I'll take Vice Chair Parker and Commissioner Slater Harrington on a second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. See you soon.
Aye.